face my foe. I lay them low. I fight them without fear. If I should fall and walk no more, I shall not shed a tear. But war is cruel, my comrade.
Hello everyone, apologies for the delay. Discord was being Discord, so it meant it was a bit crap for us. But we're here, we're ready to chat. It's going to be a similar sort of thing as last night when we were chatting to Avi. And so questions, anything like that, let us know. We'll go through it all. What ungodly hour do you call this? I know, John, it's 11 o'clock in the morning, mate. It's ridiculous. I know, you're normally still asleep. So Steve, thanks so much for coming on.
And thank you for having me.
No, I'm still amazed that Rene put people in touch with me and put me in touch with you lot, and people actually agreed to do it. I thought this would be the sort of thing that people turn around and go, "Nah, we're way too busy." And don't you know there's a pandemic going on?
I'm getting paid to do this, so.
Oh, excellent. I did not know this. That's amazing. That's brilliant. That's fantastic. I'm not.
It's all right. Yeah. Well, one of us has to make some money.
Yes.
Might as well be me.
Yes, definitely. I'm more than happy that it is you. How is everything going pandemic-wise in Japan at the moment?
Do you want the I'm going to rant, or do you want the sort of newspaper blanket statement, not really going to answer the question?
Give us your honest opinion.
Fortunately, here in Japan, people are not adverse to wearing masks because people actually wear masks even when they're sick. So the idea of wearing a mask is not a foreign concept here. So when the general population was asked to wear a mask, it was nearly immediate. And I would be surprised to see the odd person walking around without a mask on. And sometimes it's actually a non-Japanese person. So wherever you go, you see people wearing masks. And it's never, it's super hot here too. I know that in the UK, you're going through a heat wave. Here, it's 35 plus degrees, and people are still wearing masks and whatnot. So in that respect, the idea of wearing a mask was not a foreign concept. And the number of cases here in Japan are far, far less than most other countries. So where the UK is experiencing 50 to 60,000 cases a day, we're surprised when we get 2,000, and we have double the population of the UK. So I think a lot of it comes down to the fact of the general population just willing to wear masks and to do social distancing. Of course, not everyone does, but and then the rollout of the vaccination was rather slow.
Yeah,
but because Japan didn't fully accept other countries' testing of currently the Pfizer and Moderna vaccinations. So those are the two that are available at the moment. The AstraZeneca one had been received, but the Japanese government decided to donate it to Taiwan. And but I received my first shot of Moderna just on the weekend.
Okay, that's cool.
Through a certain chain of connections, and it's not nefarious. It was just I do part-time work for an international school, and they had decided to gather their teachers and community, and as well as other international schools in Nagoya. So I was able to jump in on board with that, and so my family and I were able to get it earlier than what we were expected to. So it's nice to know that we've got the shots. The government is trying to inoculate about 1 million, or they're trying to give about 1 million shots a day, which I think is totally doable. In fact, the government has asked the local communities to slow down because they've put this motion, or they've put the inoculation in motion, and now they're running into a supply problem until September. So and I'm not even going to talk or bring up the Olympics, because that is a whole different can of worms.
We're seeing that all on the news at the moment and stuff about that, but I'm just
we don't have enough time to continue that conversation.
No.
So LARP.
yes, definitely. So it's probably it's 8:15 for you in the evening at the moment.
No, sorry, it's 7:15. So
7:15.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So I'm glad I just finished a Netflix episode of a Canadian TV show and realized, hang on a second, I'm on in like 15 minutes, and then the scramble for my microphone and everything. So
I feel you on that one. So it's not too bad then. So because for Avi yesterday, he was on at I think it was 4:00 in the morning for him. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was insanity. So but it was really, really good. So how has everything been then, business wise, LARP wise, for everybody with the pandemic?
Yeah. So when the country has gone through several stages of state of emergency, quasi state of emergency, but the Japanese Constitution doesn't allow for an absolute lockdown. It infringes on personal rights. So the government asks for people to work from home, so then their company has to facilitate that, or they ask for restaurants to shut down sooner. They do limit the number of people that can participate in a sporting event, for example, or the general public has just brought it upon themselves to stop large events. So in Japan, there's been many events that have been canceled, and events meaning Airsoft events, and then small scale LARP event. So as a LARP goods store, we've really suffered throughout this whole pandemic, unfortunately. So in a sense, this time last summer, there seemed to have been a resurgence, and then sales were quite good for about a month, and then it died down to a point where, oh my gosh, if we weren't a dual income family, then I would have to go back to pole dancing and
don't we all back to those heady days.
yeah So back to the good old days.
Question from Abby. She's asked, have you ever been to a Japanese LARP? And if so, how did it go?
Right. So in Japan, so I run a LARP group here as well. And that's how my business started, was because I was interested in LARP. I picked up on a LARP group from Canada, because I'm originally from Toronto. And so I brought a franchise of the Underworld LARP group to Japan. And Underworld is an outdoor event, or outdoor LARP. Whereas in Japan, many of the LARP groups do their events inside in a rented community hall. And so I have participated in I've participated in practice LARP, which basically is a combat. They do combat LARP, but not a full-scale LARP where there's role play. I haven't done that yet.
Right, okay.
In Japan, LARP started a few years before I brought my LARP group to Japan, and it started through a group, through a HEMA group, so heavy European martial art group, based in Tokyo, and the owner of that HEMA group is an American fella, and he had a German student, and the German student wanted to introduce something that anyone could try in their facility, and he introduced a parlor LARP, and so it caught on with some Japanese, and two members of that group called Avalon in Tokyo decided to start their own LARP group, and so they began a group called Moon, and they're based in just north of Tokyo in a prefecture called Saitama. And then, so they were the first, I would say that they were the original Japanese LARP group. They focused on events inside, and they were more of a directed LARP rather than a sandbox LARP, which is what Underworld is. Yeah. And they had the occasional outdoor event, but they focused on indoor. So then my group was, I believe, the second group. We started in 2015, December officially. Didn't have our first event until 2016. And we have almost always LARPed outside. We do a summer LARP inside in a usually at the international school, which is far from where I live. But being based in Nagoya, we were able to, I actually purchased a pretty large piece of land, which is a forest and a mountain, and that's where we play our game. And we are unique in Japan, being that we not only play outside, but I also own the land. So the LARP groups tend to just rent a community space, which is really handy when the weather is rainy or hot like today. And so I have only to answer Abby's question. I have participated in a combat LARP, many combat LARP, but not a full-on role play LARP.
Okay. So I'm gonna attempt to read. I'll go through some of the other things that have been appearing on screen. So Pete says, "Morning, Steve." I'll attempt to read what he's written here. Ohio gozaimasu.
Ohio gozaimasu.
There you go.
Means good morning in Japanese.
Thank you, Pete. I am so uncultured.
It's okay. Why would you know Japanese? You just go and eat sushi, and that's the end of the Japanese experience.
No, it's my cousin sends me loads of stuff, and yeah, I don't understand a word of it.
That's okay.
He does it to mock me. It's the sort of relationship we have.
That's fun.
So yeah, he speaks to me in Japanese. I have all the proper ale. It's great.
Yeah. I think you're the winner on this one.
I think so too. So Adam's asked, what is the LARP scene like in Japan? Is it closer to American tradition of boffers, or is it more like the European sort of scene?
So I would say, in regards to weapons, thankfully, they are almost exclusively Epic Armory, and I won't comment whether I had an influence in that or not, because there is another Epic Armory online shop in Tokyo, but I was the first one in Japan. And fortunately, a lot of people, when they make their own weapon, they have to pass the safety test. And there are some really nice homemade weapons that people do, but they don't use offers here at all.
That's good.
So from a weapon standpoint, it tends to be Epic Armory. There was a little bit of Forgotten Dreams, which unfortunately no longer exists because they had some nice stuff. And there is no Kalamazoo here because the Japanese groups find it to be too firm.
Okay. So how about like kit and costume and stuff like that? So when people are doing the lot, so I think it'll probably be leaning towards the more role play heavy groups and things like that. Do you find that?
Yeah. So so in Japan, there are really two areas of what people will call LARP, but in North America or in Europe, they might find that strange because Airsoft. Are you familiar?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a Japanese word or not. Airsoft. A lot of the Airsoft groups will have a component of their game with melee weapons. And so I've been able to tap that market, and
Okay.
with the Epic Armory weapon. They call it LARP, and they're using it in a very loose term, but really they're just going out and banging each other, with swords. Costuming, there, um, there's a group called Yulu LARP, which Yulu means almost LARP, and they dress up as anime characters, they dress up as maids, they dress up as really any kind of costume, and they go out and they do combat without any role play, but they still call that LARP.
Okay.
And then there are other games where it's strictly melee. I've tried to introduce arrows. It has some appeal, but not much.
Not much. Okay.
But for the most part, the LARP component of is played in an airsoft field, and there isn't much role play. It's just like two teams, and they go after each other.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So LARP in Japan, it seems to be is predominantly more combat focused, is it? Than
Right. So there are some groups that have light touch or no touch LARP, and then there's they're the indoor groups.
Yeah.
They tend to have light touch when they play inside, and that also, as you asked about costume, that also influences what they wear for costume. So if they're playing indoors, they tend not to wear metal because they worry that if they fall on the floor, it will scrape or damage the floor, not their own costume. So a lot of people will just wear cloth, and then their gaming systems won't award points for the type of armor that they're wearing. Whereas my group, Underworld, if you aren't wearing metal, then you don't get the metal point. If you're wearing, and so we categorize the actual material of what you're wearing. So we are the only group in Japan that does that, to my knowledge.
Yeah. Okay. That's that. So it's quite heavily driven by the material and the style of it, things rather than anything else.
Well, it's actually driven by the environment that they're playing.
Yeah.
Because if they're playing inside, then they can't use metal. So this is why the cool thing about Epic Armory is that they're introducing the PU armor called the Light Kit, and I brought some of that into Japan. My first shipment arrived, a week ago Monday, and I've already sold out. So people want that metal look without actually wearing it, because then they can play inside.
Okay, that's really cool. So it's like a little like a little loophole for them then. So they can actually do
it works out well.
So that's good. So you got so Abby knows Avalon, so that's pretty cool.
Right.
So the costuming must be incredible. Dave likes likes cosplay mixed with HEMA. That's awesome.
That would be the Yulu LARP type of event.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So is there any? So when it comes to the LARP groups that are all together and things like that, is there any like one group that stands out to be more popular than all the others? Does it get the majority of people like traveling over, or do LARP groups, I suppose, stay within like specific cities or regions and?
Right. So the airsoft type of combat LARP, people will travel around Japan for. A popular person in that community will sponsor an event, and they will advertise it on Twitter. And Twitter is the place to be for anything LARP and airsoft.
Yeah.
And then, so they will sponsor, they will start an event, and then people will sign up. And sorry, my muscles in the background.
It's fine, don't worry.
She's barking out a shadow, I think. And so then, my little watchdog, she's great. But anyhow, well, I'll get her out LARPing in the winter. So, but people will travel for that. But then there are regional groups. So for the airsoft related component, or the airsoft related LARP, people wheel travel, and there are a few very, very popular organizers. But then there are many small regional groups that, like in Osaka, there's one. No, sorry, there are two, and then there's one close to Osaka, and then in my area there are two or three. Other than my own, there are two or three, and I say two or three because the third I'm not sure if they're very active. And then when you get to Tokyo, there are only several. You would think there were more, but there are only several. So there's a new one that will be starting in Hokkaido, which I'm very excited about. The organizer is a German expat, wonderful, wonderful guy. And then, so that's in the far north, in Hokkaido. And then down south in Fukuoka, there are two groups. And they're small, but the groups tend to be the same players, but they have different themes. So one is a Cthulhu LARP, and
Nice.
the other one is more of a fantasy type of.
Yeah. Okay. So Pete's asked, are there any LARPs which stand out as the most popular in Japan, which we've spoken about? It says, are there
I'm kidding. Mine. Yeah.
Definitely.
We actually were the only LARP in Japan that operates in two languages. We never discourage Japanese players, even if they don't speak Japanese, because nearly everyone in our group speaks excellent Japanese as well. So in my LARP system, languages actually determine your race. So you could speak solely in Japanese in our group, and you would likely be considered a certain race of character. Okay. So that works out really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the sponsored events, there are some that are more popular than others.
So Pete's also asked, are there any feudal-based LARPs? It's also like I suppose in Europe, where we do, I suppose, like historical-ish LARPs and things like that, and we wear like the armor and things like that. But do they do a draw or anything like that in Japan? Where
there's a Viking group that don't consider themselves LARPers, but they are Viking reenactors. Yeah, it's a small group, but they're based in Tokyo. Really nice people. Oh, reenactment-wise, there are World War II reenactors.
Yeah.
A lot of Japanese people running around in German Nazi costumes that doesn't make me feel very comfortable. And I have conversations with them. So
wow.
I've had conversations with them saying my grandfather used to fight against people like you. Anyhow, that's another long story. But HEMA is. There are the fantasy groups tend to try to use fantasy-related costumes, but also medieval fantasy, my particular group.
So do they?
But there are no close reenactment type of groups, and I know what you mean, or I know what Pete is alluding to with that. I've seen a lot of European groups that have war bands, like the Australian Swordcraft. Who are wonderful, a bunch of people spend a lot of money on their gear.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm trying to think how to word things. It's I haven't had anywhere near enough coffee today.
That's okay.
So do you get, I suppose, with like reenactment and stuff like that? Would you get like any of like the big classic like samurai battles and things like that going on as well?
Several years ago, I was approached by the Samurai Armor Battle Group based in Osaka, and the founder of that group was asked to do a space in the Samurai Kingdom in the prefecture, or actually in the town of Isu, spelled I-S-E. Ise. Sorry, not Isu. It's a different place. And he had contacted me to start. So the theme of that park was a particular time period called the Azuchi Momoyama period, which is the time when Japan was unifying under the shogun Nobunaga Odo, and Oda, and that was when foreigners were coming into Japan. Europeans were coming into Japan. So the Yokoyama sensei asked me to start a European armor shop, and so we tried it for a while. It wasn't very successful, but what they do is they do a like a time period of the late 1500s, early 1600s, and they have large battles. I had tried to convince them to use our weapons, but they actually hit pretty hard. They're similar to HEMA in the strength of their hits. So our foam weapons wouldn't withstand much. And so there is some reenactment of that time period, or the samurai. The same people who started the Layman group with Avalon, they've done a number of different themes, or they've experimented with different themes, and one was a ninja type of theme, and they went to the town of Iga, which is known for being a ninja town where a lot of ninjas did their secret training, and they ran a small LARP event there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah.
It's I find it interesting when you hear like the countries bringing in their like history and stuff like that and trying to do all of this sort of stuff, and as long as they're not being like the British, where it's just like, oh, we're so amazing, and it's like, no, we're really not. Please ignore that. So James has asked a really interesting question. Is there anything from Japanese LARP that you wish Canadian Western LARPs would incorporate, and vice versa? To put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm picking my words carefully because I'm a big fan of the outdoor LARP, and I do like indoor LARP when it is not medieval fantasy, because there are some groups that run a really excellent like parlor LARP type of event. Yeah. And I've seen and I've heard of some really good and really successful, very treasure based and like puzzle based type of LARP. So I would really love to know more about that. I would like to take that quest based type of LARP and incorporate it into our group. From the flip side, I wish the Japanese LARP groups would play more outside, and because any of the Japanese players from other groups who have come and played with us really enjoy the fact of just being outside. Yeah. And because we run a sandbox type of game, if they want to participate in the patrol or fighting the monster, they can. If they don't, they just want to sit in front of the fire, and then they can too. So that to the Japanese is odd, because the indoor LARPs tend to be directed. Yeah. And so they're kind of guided through guided through a scene. Yeah. And with our group, people can do whatever they want. So, and I understand the need for having a directed or guided type of LARP inside, because you're only basically working with two rooms. So when a scene is happening in one room, a team is in the other room fixing it up, a separate room fixing it up for the next scene. So I understand that point. So you don't have the luxury of walking around in a forest. No. So what's the sort of sizes of these groups then? So like your group, for example, how many members do you have? Oh, we get between 1,000 and 2,000 people. Kidding. I was just I'm pulling your leg. Good. A big one would be about 20 people. For the UK or for Canada, that's tiny. It's manageable for me, and then I have my son Josh who's stepped in as and we do the LARP organization together. He has a bit of a claim to fame. He was the youngest LARPer in Canada when he and I did our first LARP. We were able to do it because being a chapter owner and just the owners of the LARP that we did our first LARP at allowed him to play, and he was 15. but in Canada you have to be 18. But they said just because we don't live in Canada, even though he's a Canadian citizen, we're not residents of Canada.
No.
And I was playing with him, and they allowed it to happen. And then my daughter, who did her first LARP, she was 8 when we started here, and so she was. Our very first scenario was she was a princess who was taken by some bad guys, and I'd love to tell you about our very first event. We played it in some caves in the prefecture of Gifu. A friend of mine had told me about these caves that were built during World War II by Mitsubishi, and they were actually building some sort of components inside this cave. So, the Allies couldn't see what was going on, and so it's a massive cave system, like man-made cave system, and we played in there, and it was awesome because we were playing in a cave. We really weren't supposed to be there, first of all. So the neighbors came out and complained, but we had already finished our game, and we all had to have like candles, and because there was virtually no light in there.
Yeah.
So it created an awesome atmosphere.
Yeah, we have a similar one in Portsmouth. We've got, which is just up the road from where I live, right on the south coast of the UK. We've got a fort there which has got a complete underground network of caves.
Oh wow!
And when you start to get into it, and they turn the lights off, you cannot see your hand if it's right in front of your face. It's
pitch black,
completely pitch black. And they rely on all of their players. You have to bring your own torches and things like that. So if you're hiding from someone and you find a nice little alcove and you can turn your torch off, no one can see you unless they shine a torch directly at you. It's really good. It's really good. So Abby has asked if they do pirate LARPs in Japan.
No. Okay. So there was a pirate cosplay event that we did. Hang on a second. Or is it the next one? There's a large group called Life is Fantasia, and they're based in Osaka, and they do these really, really fun immersive types of events, one-day event. And the last one was just this past March, and they've been talking about doing a pirate event, but other than that, no, we haven't seen a pirate event.
Well, yeah, pirate cosplay. I think Abby's on her way there already, so she loves it. So Pete has asked, would you say a guided Japanese LARP could be seen as an interactive experience, much like the Aliens experience or the upcoming Judge Dredd experience? These are ones that I think happened in London, or are happening in London. Or the chat stopped moving. Or the upcoming Judge Dredd experience than what Europeans would consider a LARP event, more scripted.
Well, I don't know the events that he's referencing to, but I've heard from different customers and also from our Japanese underworld players that it depends on who the director or game master is, because if someone is able to use a lot of descriptive words to create an atmosphere, even though you're in a community hall, versus someone who is just giving you directions and creates a boring event. So it really does depend on.
So do you get? So whereas like in like Canada, UK, Germany especially as well, where you get the big fest like events happening.
Not yet. So Life is Fantasia is about as close to a big fest as we're ever going to get, or in the immediate term. Sadly, they had tried to get 500 people, but due to COVID, there were much less this past March, and they were in an absolutely beautiful space. They spent a ton of money on. It would be very more attuned to a steampunk type of venue.
Okay.
And but it had such a really cool vibe. It was right on the water in Osaka at the harbor, and the buildings were a red brick, which is very rare in Japan. And even the ground was red brick, cobblestone, and so it was a really cool place. So, but that is about the largest fest type of event. Of course, then there's the Cosplay Summit, which happens here in Nagoya, and the next one is actually in August, but that's not LARP at all. I was at one a couple of years ago, and it was just people posing and doing their cosplay, which was pretty cool for the people that attended, because it was the World Cosplay Summer. But
yeah.
I thought there would be a crossover from cosplayers to LARP, and there has been some, but not as much as I'd thought, because they're sort of in the same genre. And originally, when we started our LARP group, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, so it's like you're doing cosplay and role play." And like, yeah, well, we call it live action role play. So now it is much easier. These 6 years from when we started, to describe, well, this is live action role play.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with the fact that I've been on TV many times for live action role play, or I've done radio, and I've done newspaper, and I've done TV. And the most recent TV event was with a famous comedy troupe, and it was actually my son and I. And I love this is I get goosebumps when I say this, but this is the main motivation for me doing this hobby, is because I get to share it with my son. So,
yeah.
And he's grown up in it, so, and he's really good at it too.
Excellent. That's really cool. So this is something that I keep on saying about LARP. I love the fact that it's a big community thing, and it's there for everybody. It brings people together and stuff.
Yeah.
So like my daughter's 12 at the moment, and I'm trying. She hasn't been to an event yet, but I'm hoping that it'll be next year now. For her, she'll be coming along to try it for the first time, and
cool.
She's already she's good at beating up people. That's for sure. She's lethal, absolutely lethal.
Start.
Yeah, it definitely takes after me in that aspect. So I'm really proud of her for that. So, but it's going to be interesting to see what she's like, because the game that we do has about 3,000 players. So, and it's like
which one is it?
Empire.
Oh yeah, I know Empire. Yeah.
So
I watch the videos on YouTube and stuff. Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, we do a lot of stuff. We do a lot of stuff around that. So it's really good. So Pete has asked again. So Pete's all over it. You mentioned that a popular person or from X-LARP will sponsor an event, then take to Twitter. Is the LARP more player-led in the media than company-led?
Yeah, so there's no company. So it is an individual, and they set the games within the day event. And I mean, to be frank, it's usually the same sorts of things, like capture the flag, or you've got to find something. So it with variation, with slight variations, but a lot of it I find, as I have a booth, a tent, and my wares, we sit there, and if my son is with me, he often goes and plays some of the events, and this is kind of the cool thing. My son is half Japanese and half Canadian, and I think he's a good-looking kid, and he's definitely looked good on TV and stuff, because he's been on TV with me a few times.
Yeah.
And he is also very popular within the LARP community. At least I think he is, because he is very good at at the role play part.
Yeah.
And he played an elf king. So for his high school graduation present, I bought him the Epic Armoury dark elven armor, and it's all leather, and he looks absolutely awesome in it. He slaps on the elf ears, and you would think he was an elf, because he has very unique eyes, and he has these beautiful eyes, and they're not brown, they're hazel. So people look at him, and they really be immersed by just what he's wearing. And so he has been the Elven King for several of these organized combat LARP events, and where I just sit there and I usually play his bodyguard or some like oaf or something like that, just because he's the star and I don't stand in his way for that. And I don't want I don't want to I don't he enjoys it. So
that's really cool. That's really good.
But sorry Pete, I think I only half answered your question.
So he's asked loads of questions. We'll give
great.
other people a go.
Well, that's why we're here.
Kyle's asked. This is something that I was
a
thinking
new person.
About. Yes, this is something that I was thinking about earlier. So Kyle's asked, do you think Japanese LARPers find it weird that Europeans often love traditional Japanese style armor and weaponry?
That's a good question. Would you then, let me turn the table and say, well, would you think that Japanese people are weird by dressing up as knights or fantasy knights or other types of characters? So I think the most of the Japanese people here understand and appreciate the fact that you just enjoy the costume. So when I'm wielding an epic armory katana, people don't think it's strange, and I'm happy for people to buy their European looking or fantasy weapons from me, and I never judge them.
Yeah. So
it's a very political way of saying.
No, it's fine. It kind of leads on to, like, what's the most popular weapon then? What's the most popular armor?
In Japan, it's definitely the katana and the dai katana.
Really?
Because it's a versatile thing. So a lot of people who are wearing even like maid costumes or like the military costumes, they'll use a katana.
Yeah. Okay.
Recently it was Dragon Slayer, so there quite a few guys were dressed up with Dragon Slayer, and then they would buy the colors his katana. He had a colored katana. I think it was green, and we sell a green type colored katana. But for versatility, the katana is definitely the most popular. And then I would say, a European footman sword or crusader sword is also very popular.
Right. Okay.
And I'm sorry, and post-apocalyptic weapons are also very, very popular with the airsoft.
That's awesome. That's really good. It's really strange because I asked Avi this as well, and it was swords. Everyone loves a sword.
Yeah.
I really am in the minority when it comes to the fact that I need my hammers, I need my maces. It's just blunt force trauma for me at LARP. That's literally that's what I love. But so
I would say maces are the least selling ones. Axes have their following. We just got the double chaos axe in the other day, and they're all gone. Well, sorry, they were all gone because they were all pre-ordered, and I could sell twice as many. So there are a number of people that like the axes. Personally, I don't. I use only swords and throwing knives. So yeah, I've tried other weapons, like the king mace that I have here. I'm in my office right now, and I'm surrounded with staves, and my sword bags are over there and stuff. So my wife tolerates it as long as I'm happy, and they're in bags and they're not flopping all over the ground. She lives with it, and she's a real trooper.
No, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. So Dave's asked, why do you think there is a lack of roleplay at Japanese events? Do you think people would be interested if introduced to it?
Yeah, my son and I have both, and others have said, well, there needs to be more quest or roleplay within the combat LARPs that are happening at the airsoft fields, and we've said that over and over again. And I appreciate for the fact that it does take more people to run that type of an event, especially when you have 70 or 80 people. So yeah, that and even the Yulu LARP, the one where that you can dress up as anything, there's no interest in doing the role play side of it. They just want to dress up, hang out with friends, and whack each other with swords.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, we're back to Pete again.
Hey Pete.
So over here, Japanese.
No, keep them coming. I mean, this is awesome. I love answering these questions.
Japanese TV conjures the image of strange, wacky, obscure, and downright bizarre game shows. Does any of this wackiness appear in any LARPs?
Yeah, it would be the Yulu LARP. They dress up in funny costumes. They do funny things. A lot of it is comedy related. Of course, they take the safety very, 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 very seriously, which is awesome. And in fact, some of the events you have to wear goggles. If it's on an airsoft field, you have to wear goggles as soon as you enter. So I appreciate that. But they do have some goofy, times or a goofy sub game in it where you have to do something silly. Even the TV show that my son and I did in March, it was on, ironically, April 1st. It was with that comedy troupe, and they had us. They were kind of doing some goofy things, and we had to sort of slow them down and tell them that we don't do that in LARP. You can't pull right forward and then wham and hit the guy, that kind of thing, and or watch out you don't hit him in the face.
So when it because LARP obviously has this stigma attached to it, due to like popular culture. So a lot of Western films and things like that. So like the role models and those sorts of films and that. Does LARP get that sort of does it have that sort of stigma attached to it as well?
That's a good question, because I don't see it as much. It's hard for me to answer that question because I'm not Japanese, and so people look at me with a head tilt anyways, and mainly because I'm so handsome, but they...
Good comeback.
Remember, I'm getting paid for this.
This is true,
just for the audience, I'm not getting paid. But in Japan there are so many subcultures, and like Airsoft is a subculture, cosplay is a subculture. The general public, the mindset of the general public is, well, as long as you're not hurting anyone and you're enjoying yourself, then knock yourself out. Just the other day, there was a customer that came in, and I think she dresses like that every day, but she looked like a Sailor Moon type of character, and she's in her 40s. And, cool, you're happy. I mean, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
I love it because I'm a store where people can come in and they can just enjoy their fantasy hobby, and and I'm not there. I wear a kilt here sometimes, and I do get the look, and couldn't give a crap.
No, definitely not.
It's me, and so there are the odd person who would look at you, but in Japan, the cool thing is that you can walk down the street, and as long as you're not breathing fire, people probably won't pay attention.
Yeah. So Dawn's asked.
Hi, Dawn.
Asked a good question.
Dawn with a W or D-O-N?
D-A-W-N, Dawn.
A D-A-W-N, right.
Yeah. So she's asked, would you like to see a big budget LARP or Airsoft event on like Gunship Island or a similar location? Japan has some great natural scenery.
Right. So we had actually, as I mentioned before, the Samurai Kingdom in Issei, we had been planning a large scale event at that location because they have period correct buildings. Sadly, it didn't come to fruition, but we had looked at spending some big whack of cash with the idea of getting people from all over Japan to participate.
That'd be really cool.
I know that there's been talk with another group who want to have a large event over several days. I think they were inspired by Drachenfest in Germany. I've been fantasizing about it for quite some time, of having a large event at my own land, but my land is not quite there yet. It's still very raw, even though I've had it for several years. So there is always that ambition, but it takes a team to put that into fruition. So yeah. But I think it will happen in the future.
No,
I hope so.
Well, yeah, fingers crossed. That'd be awesome to have happen.
Yeah.
I love to say that I think LARP is something that everybody should try at least once, because it's a nice escape. It's a nice break from reality.
You're bringing a really cool point. There was a professor in Tokyo who spoke to me about the idea of running a LARP event for autistic children as a way for them to indirectly learn. So the idea was for them to be immersed in a fantasy type of scenario, having to solve puzzles, but having to work together in order to solve the puzzles and the quest, and then enjoy, light touch combat. That I'm sure is still in the works. It was through a school here in Aichi. Aichi is the prefecture that I'm in. It's like, one of your shires, and so that's still on the table. It's bureaucracy that is likely holding it back. I thought that was kind of cool. And then I would really love to get some seniors out and play, because, I mean, come on, you're 60, 65 years old. It doesn't mean you have to stop using your imagination, right?
No, definitely not.
Right?
Definitely
and you're
not.
retired, and what are you going to do? And it's, there are a few older people that come out to these airsoft events, and I'm in my 50s, and I want to do this until I drop dead at the age of 200. So I can see myself doing this for forever. And I want to get more people involved of every different age group. I understand the limitations for children, but I think that seniors would be an awesome market as well. Again, light touch, maybe in a community hall, but I could see a bunch of them coming out into my land.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, as someone who's only 21, it's really nice when you get.
Oh, you're 21. Wow.
21.
Don't look a day over. You don't look a day over 45 years.
I was going to say I've aged so badly.
Oh God, maybe you are 21. No, you said your daughter's 12.
12, yeah.
Yeah, you're not 12.
So, yeah, let's not do the math. But this is something that I really like to talk about, and it's with the community that I've got here. It's brought so many people together, and like groups have formed and people do things together. We have lots of new groups that are going off to play Empire. They form their own halls, houses, carters, whatever they want to call it, and it all works really well. So it's like Kyle's just asked, is there any particular idea of LARP that currently doesn't exist in Japan that you think would do really well? E.g., do you think Empire, as one example, would do well in Japan?
Carl, that's a good question, because I think I would love to see, again, more of the historical types of LARPs on a larger scale. I think the hindrance to it is the fact of available land, and there are groups. So the complicated thing here is a lot of people can't pursue their hobbies on a Monday to Friday type of situation, because if you're living in Tokyo, you're likely commuting at least an hour one way on a train. You're likely working later than you should. And then of course you have your family commitments and what. You likely don't own a vehicle, and you likely are just not able to pursue anything other than sleeping after you get home. In my area, it's a little different. Nagoya is a large city, but it's not a city that you have to really worry about commuting quite a distance, and so we don't, or a lot of people don't pursue their hobbies during the week. So you only have Saturday and Sunday, and Saturday and Sunday, if you're married, you're often committed to spending time with your partner or your family, your children, and what. So you even have less time to commit to your hobby. And when you do commit to a hobby, you're committed to the hobby. Like it is your passion.
Yeah.
So yeah, where am I going with this? I don't know. Let me ask the 8-ball here. Where am I going with this? Please ask again later.
So with Empire then being such a, because it has lots of nations and lots of stuff involved in it. So asking for bringing something like that over to Japan then, where you're saying to people, can you commit to 5 days here? You're asking people to give up a lot.
Very unlikely.
Yeah,
it's very unlikely unless it's a holiday.
Right.
The LARP community would have to be likely 10 times larger than the largest event that you want to hold. So right now the LARP community, including the Airsoft people who consider themselves LARPers, it might be well, I've got 3,000 followers on Twitter, so but some of the larger Airsoft people have 5 to 10, so maybe 10,000 people. No, sorry. I'll pull that number back. Maybe 4,000 people who participate in some respective live action role play, whether it is using a live action role play style weapon. The largest events that we've attended is an Airsoft event with a LARP component, and that's 300. Sorry, the largest Airsoft event was 300.
Yeah,
that's pretty big when you're talking about an Airsoft field. The Life is Fantasia, which was cosplay with LARP, with live action role play components to it, like quests and asking people and working. The largest one was just this past March, and it was over 300, but they had targeted 500, but it was due to COVID. A lot of people pulled out. Yeah. So having an Empire style LARP with a couple of thousand participants, well, it would be a land concern. So there would only be a certain number of places that you could do it. Hokkaido is one of them, or Nagano, or Niigata. So the more northern prefectures, which means that it takes more time for people in my area or in Osaka and so on to travel up there. And people can do it, but as I said, I think the numbers have to be much larger in order to achieve an Empire type of event.
So how popular with saying that then? Do people in Japan, do they follow, like for example YouTube or Twitter videos of people from all of these European or American LARPs then? Is the interest there? Do they say, I don't want to play it, but I'm interested in what they're doing over there. I'm interested in this LARP here, and their videos are pretty cool, or anything like that. Do you hear about a lot of that?
Not a lot, but there are people, especially people that I know personally, who have played in my particular game, or people in Tokyo. The Japanese, even though they study English in high school, are very shy about using their language ability. So they, for example, won't engage in English conversation with me, and they'll expect me to speak in Japanese, which is fine because we're in Japan.
Yeah.
But they're not shy to look at YouTube, but they may not understand everything.
No.
And I have posted like a Drakenfest. I should actually do an Empire one. I'll post an Empire link on my Twitter account and see if whoever the person is who's controlling that YouTube channel. Is it you, Steven?
Well,
no.
I have loads. I've got like 150 Empire videos that I've done on YouTube, and there are a few other people out there who do Empire related content, but the actual Profound Decisions one, no, unfortunately that's that's not me controlling it, but I could probably point you in the direction of a few.
Yeah, because
won't be mine, but they are better quality.
What I was alluding to was the fact that you might see a jump in Japanese views. That's all. So, because I've done that before, and then people say, "Oh, getting a lot of people like looking from Japan." Just posted something on Twitter.
Yeah,
it's like, check this out. It's really cool. And the language isn't the important thing. It's the visual that they were looking.
Yeah. Well, I've done. I think the latest I did one talking about all of the different nations within Empire, and I've actually got their wiki open, and we're going through. Cool. We're looking at all the pictures, and it's all written out in front of us as well while we get talking. So there's a bit of audio and visual stimulation there as well. So I'll be more than happy to send you the link for that one as well. If you wanted,
cool. Yeah, please. I'll post that on Twitter.
So, but yeah, it's. I was just thinking along the line of it could be quite interesting if like someone like Drakenfest or something like that decided they were going to do a day event or a weekend event. Like, because Dawn's talking about she thinks a well-planned parlour LARP could be quite cool if you could find a municipal venue and you have the DOS to take over and do something like that. Then I mean, if like Drakenfest, we'll use Drakenfest as an example, but if they would come in, set up, and say, we're going to be here for 2 days. If you want to come and get involved, come and do this, and stuff. So,
well, you speak about like a parlor LARP, and, as Dawn mentioned and stuff. For a while, I was promoting the. I'm going to slaughter the name, but they were doing the. God, why am I drawing a blank? In Poland, they were doing. Joback Studios was doing the Witcher. They were doing the Harry Potter.
Oh yeah.
Theme game before they went.
Yeah.
The Way of the Dodo.
The wizarding.
Wizarding.
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
Okay, for those listening,
where's Abby? She knows. She'll know.
Please refresh our memory. So I was actually speaking to them about promoting that type of event here in Japan, and there was another person who was based in Japan who got involved as well. Wasn't related to me or anything, and then the Joback Studios drama happened. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. I felt I was a partial victim of lose. I lost a fair bit of money because I was looking because they did the Convention of Thorns, the Vampire the Masquerade one as well.
Yeah, and then they were doing Gangs of Birmingham or something like that.
Yeah, so they ran quite a lot.
Fairweather Manor was another one.
Yeah,
they did some awesome stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Well, what's the one in Poland called?
It's not College of Wizardry.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you to whoever refreshed our memory.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, Dawn.
Yeah, so College of Wizardry.
College of Wizardry, right, yeah.
Oh, Germany, apparently.
It was Poland, as far as I remember. Because it's the same castle that a group who's doing Witcher, the Witcher theme, they're using the same castle.
Yeah. Oh, she said she could be wrong. But yeah, so that's... Yeah. Oh, okay. So you were looking at doing some sort of promotional stuff like that. So is
yeah, that's right. They had the intellectual, whatever intellectual property type of thing, in their created world, or even in the Harry Potter theme. There was supposed to be a College of Wizardry based in Japan as well. So I was actually speaking with a good friend of mine, Ole Comp, who's actually a well-known scholar on LARP. He's based in Kyoto, and he and I had been discussing like possible venues for doing a Japanese version of the College of Wizardry.
That'd be cool.
And yeah, it would have been. And then the problems with Joback.
Yeah,
it never came to life.
No, that's a shame. That really is. That's a shame. Because I think anything that's going to promote or push out any sort of these sorts of larps and ideas and get people more drawn into the hobby. I think it's only going to be it can only be a good thing, can't it? At the end of the day.
And as Don had said something about a parlor LARP, that I mean, it's all inside. There's that would have been perfect for the Japanese players.
Yeah. So, what would be your? How would you recommend? So, like, if myself and members of this community were traveling over to Japan and wanted to do some LARP out there, then what would you recommend to them, or how would you say for them to come and do it?
Don't come to Japan. I'm kidding. Just get in contact with me. Unfortunately, unless you speak really good Japanese, you wouldn't be able to join a Japanese LARP, a Japanese group LARP. But you can certainly come. We've hosted quite a few people. They've been traveling. We had a couple from Germany, Barbara and Marco. They were awesome. I learned a lot from them because they LARP in Germany. Tamara and Aaron came from Australia. Tamara had a YouTube channel. I think she's still doing it. Tamwise Traveler. And of course, Azrae. He had LARP House in the United States. We learned tons from these new people, or the people that came and played with us, because they're bringing totally new things to our attention, and it was just so much fun. And we're still friends to this day, even though they're not here, but I still communicate with all of them, so it's awesome. So please, if you find my website, but my LARP group is on Facebook. It's
I follow you on Twitter actually already.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I've followed you on Twitter for probably about a year now.
Oh, really? What's your Twitter handle?
Hefty Yeti. Yeah. So I follow you on Twitter as well. So because I love to see the photos that you put in from the shop and stuff like that. It's I mean, everything you tweet, I don't understand a word of it, but I can't read it. But it's really nice to see everything that goes on in the. It's really nice to see all of the stuff that's going on and the people that you get in, what's being sold, and things like that. I find it absolutely fascinating. I'll post the link to your Twitter in the video as well when I post.
Yeah, and then recently, or 20 or 30% of the time, I'll put an English translation to it, and just for my own, for my own ease of reading. It's like, I remember this tweet. It's in English. I don't have to read the Japanese. And we do have some followers from other countries and stuff. But
so Dawn has said, because we do have a fair few people in the Hefty Yeti community who are they're studying Japanese and things like that. So she's asked,
cool.
Is there an NT level you'd recommend they need to be at, or is it? I don't know what this means. So
an N level is the way that the you write a test for N5, N4, N3, N2, and N1. N1 is absolute fluency. Well, as high as you can go, absolute fluency in Japanese. N5 is no, you're not even N5. It's like you'd have to be able to read some hiragana and katakana. You would likely have to be an N2, an N3 with a sympathetic dungeon master would be fine. Right. N3 is about intermediate level.
Okay.
But most people, the awesome thing is, the LARP community here is very open and very welcoming. So if you message me first, and then I can introduce you to the organizer of a particular group in whatever city that you want to go to, and if they're having an event, I couldn't see why they wouldn't welcome if you're at an N3 or higher, because
the groups tend not to have any English other than the Japanese version of English in their game.
Right. Okay. That's quite interesting. So they've said, yeah. So Abby says likely N2. I was assuming N1 or N2 because I think Dawn used to be a Japanese teacher.
Oh,
so
geez.
so yeah.
I'm sure that Dawn speaks better Japanese than me.
Well, to be honest, I think a lot of the Japanese out there probably speak better English than I do. So it's this is
Fair enough.
this is what I've discovered. So well, I think this is a good question. We'll probably finish on this question.
Yeah, because my union said I was only here for an hour, so my agent said I should be. It's 60 minutes. Kidding. I do have an agent, but yeah, she's not involved with this. I actually do film and TV work here too, and voice work.
So I have a manager, but she's at work at the moment, so she's left me to my own devices. So Pete's asked, what's the inclusiveness like in Japan? Like, I'm imagining a very level of inclusiveness for things like safe spaces, disability, access to events, etc.
I would say that they are very inclusive. In regards to the LGBT community as a whole, it is not as open as it is in other countries. In our particular group, we are extremely open to the LGBT community. So that's the very first thing I say to any new member, actually, is you're here and it's safe.
Yeah.
We are very open, and I don't tolerate any disparity or disparaging words regarding race, color, creed, or personal identity. So other groups would be very much the same. Japanese people aren't outwardly hostile to anything, especially in the LARP community. So disability-wise, I'm not sure exactly if that's a physical or mental disability. Physical disabilities would only be limited to whatever space you play in. Like, for example, unfortunately, we play in a forest. So if you had a physical disability, I'd still bring you in. You don't have to participate as much in the heavy stuff. If you want to sit by the fire and enjoy everyone's company, that's what you're doing. So that's totally cool. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so I would say that they're very inclusive here in Japan.
Excellent. That's really, really good to hear. So Steve, thanks so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it, taking the time out of your evening.
I still got energy, man. If you want to sit around for a while longer and tell each other lies, I'm here for you. No? You got things to do?
Yes, unfortunately, yeah,
okay.
I do. I'm doing prep for a big stream on Friday for Empire Larp, and it's
cool.
I've got lots of videos to edit and lots of stuff to make for it, and I haven't even started yet.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I am my own worst enemy when it comes to these sorts of things.
I hear you.
So never mind. But
I'm hoping to get to the UK sometime soon, because I've applied for graduate school. It's either like I don't want to brag about where I've applied, but it's either intensives over 1 week period for 2 years, or depending on the school, because I've applied to several, or it'd be all online, but I'll end up having to go to the UK for research or whatnot. So
yeah, hit us up. We'll definitely look at getting you involved or dragged over to dragged up to Empire or something. So
absolutely, it would just be a highlight of my very long 200-year life of going to Empire, because I want to have that experience of being, one of just 2,000 people playing, and I could just see myself making a total ass of myself, but enjoying every single minute of
it. You won't. If you've seen me playing at Empire, that's making an ass of yourself. You'll be totally fine. It's I'll definitely I'll post some. I'll tweet you some pictures of from our our community from Empire and
Cool.
stuff like that, so you can see a nice variety. But yeah, let us know if you're coming over, and we'll definitely we'll do what we can to help you out and get you sorted.
And to your listeners, if anyone wants to contact me regarding coming over, please just find me. My company name is Larp Gear on Twitter, and send me a DM, direct message.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's Japanese English or not, DM, but and just say, hey, listen, I heard you on the Hefty live stream. Let's stay in touch, and we'll follow each other. And then, if you're coming over, just send me a message, and I'm happy to host.
Well, my plan is I want to visit all of these countries and try what they do for LARP. So it's like
I have one condition. If you come and visit, you need to bring Cadbury crunchy bars with you, please.
Crunchies.
After I graduated my undergraduate, I ended up working at the Golden Hind, which was at that time in the 90s. It was in Salford, so I lived in Salford for a while, and I got totally addicted to Cadbury crunchies. And Canada has Cadbury crunchies here, but
not the same.
No,
not the same.
I mean, I would ask you to bring Guinness as well, but once it leaves Ireland, it doesn't. So.
Yes, yeah. I think once you've drunk Guinness in Ireland, you don't tend to drink it elsewhere. So, So Dawn says she can get. Dawn says she can get to the factory shop for you. So,
oh my God!
If
Dawn, you are now my new best friend.
If anyone's heading out there, then I'm sure we can get it to you. So, I mean, I do tend. I have sent my cousin over like care packages every now and again from the UK, just so he gets like sweets and booze and stuff like that, just to keep him going for a little bit. So
Street.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So, thanks for coming on, Steve.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to finally connect.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's really good. Hopefully, I'll have Rene on as well at some point as well.
Just speak slow. Use diagrams, and then he'll understand. I'm kidding. I'll be honest with you. This is not a plug, but Epic Armoury as a group, and Renee as the owner. I mean, they are fantastic people. Yeah. The ethics of that company is really, really high. Yeah. It's quality. If something's broken, then we replace it, and then just working with Renee is just awesome. He's a LARPer. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, it's not just a tagline. It's true. Like, all of those people that work there are into LARP. Yeah. And so, I mean, who better to design and run the company? I mean, the people in the everyone is. I think the accountant is not a LARPer, but even the folks in the warehouse, they're all LARPers, and it's just awesome, So
yeah, I would love to go out to Copenhagen. To go, I've already sort of poked him about it a few times, and he was just like, "Well, we'll see." And I'd love to go out to Copenhagen, go and see the warehouse, go and visit them all in person, do videos and stuff like that, just to see it all there and in. Because I love it.
Yeah,
love it all.
They are fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah, when I had him on the phone, he gave me a little tour of the warehouse and the office.
Oh right.
And stuff, but it's difficult to see when he's showing you through a screen like that a little bit. Yeah. That's all you can see and stuff. So but it would be really, really good to do and see if I can take some of the Hefty fam over. But still, anyway,
awesome.
So thanks everyone for watching. Thank you, Steve, for coming on. I'm sure.
Thank you very much.
Everyone's been saying thank you. So. And we'll have a look at sorting some crunchies for you.
Yeah. Arigatou gozaimashita. Kyou wa minasan arigatou gozaimashita.
Bye.
Thanks again, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you, Steve.
No worries.
Thank you. See you.
See you later.
Hey.
Bye.
My eyes are clear.